Hello and welcome to Global Sanctuary for Elephants podcast, Global Rumblings. Global Sanctuary for Elephants, or GSE for short, is a non-profit organisation with a mission to create vast safe spaces for captive elephants where they are able to heal physically and emotionally, often from very traumatic pasts. I'm your host, Nadia Maserati, and I'll be taking you to the lush jungle of the Mato Grosso region in central Brazil, home of GEC's initial project, Elephant Sanctuary Brazil, where former zoo and circus elephants from across South America live their best lives. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Global Rumblings podcast, and thank you for joining us again this week for a new and exciting episode as we continue to learn more about Baby, the Sanctuary's latest resident. In our last podcast, we talked about Baby's past before she came to Sanctuary, and today Scott will be sharing some hopefully fun and behind-the-scenes stories from the 3-day relocation road trip, but of course we'll also be catching up on Baby to find out how she's doing during her first days and weeks at the Sanctuary. So let's say hi to Kat and Scott. Hi, you two.
Hey, Nadia.
Hey, Nadia. How are you doing?
I'm fine, but my sense of time is a little bit askew because we bumped up the last episode. We simply didn't want to wait another week to share Baby's story with you. And now sort of, just a reminder for everybody to subscribe and follow the podcast if you are enjoying it, because although we do release every 3 weeks, sometimes we surprise you. So if you subscribe and follow us, you'll never miss another episode. So
I need to do that so I don't miss the next episode, because my sense of timing is always askew. Where are we? What day of the week it is? What time zone are we in?
There's a book in Germany called Wer bin ich und wenn ja, wie viele? It's a book about philosophy, and it means who am I and how many am I? So maybe that is an interesting title for you.
How many am I? Thank goodness only one, I think.
Okay, so last week we talked about Baby's past. Well, not last week, in our last episode we talked about Baby's past prior to Sanctuary. And today, the 3-day road trip set off on the 18th of June caught everyone off guard and took 3 days to relocate her from the Beto Carrero World, an amusement park in Brazil. So you had already said that the crate was already at the amusement park because she was actually destined to go to a different zoo and they were already crate training her. So maybe we can pick up from there and you can then take us back along memory lane and on this long and very tiring road trip.
Well, first off, we've done several trips where we don't have a lot of notice or we don't have a lot of time once we go to the zoo. So we only have 3 to 5 days sometimes. And so it's not uncommon for us to go and, assimilate an elephant very quickly.
Because all of the girls in Brazil that have come from Brazil, it's always been the 3 to 5 days. Let's go.
They adapt very quickly. And normally you take advantage of the curiosity of the crate before it gets too old, before the excitement of the new toy wears down. And normally they're curious. They want to go in right away.
They've had nothing exciting in their lives for 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, it's literally like the first new toy they've had in decades. So they see it and they're like, I don't even know what it is, but I need to find out.
But normally that process is entirely on us. And in this scenario, it was not entirely on us. We didn't know exactly how it was going to unfold, but we did have a video from before of her going into her other crate, which is about the same size, a little bit larger, definitely not built as well. And it's basically
not really built for elephants.
It's basically just a container, a shipping container that's not really reinforced. So... but she had already been closed in that crate. So it was great. She had been closed in multiple times. The team was already accustomed to doing this. We didn't know what we were going to get into when we arrived. I think we talked about it in the last episode with one of her caregivers she really, really, really adored in a way that I've very rarely seen. And it really worked to our advantage, not only the relationship, but he really wanted her to go to the sanctuary as well.
He came back to help with this. He hadn't been there at the time and came back.
No, he had been helping with preparations for the other trip.
Yeah.
So he had been helping for simulation, whichever way she was going to go, whether she was going to go to the other zoo or to the sanctuary. But he was really happy she was going to come to the sanctuary because of the life that it provided her. He was very open. There was another caregiver who was also very open and had been following and said repeatedly how much he's already learned from watching the sanctuary Instagram page. And seeing the life that we can provide. So we had a lot of collaboration, and that relationship really worked to our advantage because she had comfort to be closed in the new crate almost right away. Even though, again, it's a new crate, a little bit different, still being closed in a small space, different ventilation, different windows, different doors, different sounds. She had a lot of fun playing with our little latches, made little automatic latches and checking it all out. But within 24 hours, she was being closed into the new crate. So she did exceedingly well. And a lot of that had to do with that relationship. He was free contact with her. So he would actually go in behind her and close the crate behind her. So that is something that we could utilize to our advantage and her advantage as well. So.
Which is always a little scary to watch. I don't even care. She clearly loved him, but they are wild animals and things happen. They get spooked. They have a bad day, whatever it is. So always makes me a little nervous when I get the videos of some of the stuff that went on.
A lot scary.
A lot scary.
But she also, looking at her behavior, I mean, she would do like rumbling and roaring at him, calling him, and so excited, following him everywhere he went. So, it was, even though they're in scared positions, you could see there's a difference in that relationship that is unique. Very nice for her, and of course, very helpful for the crate transport. So she assimilated into the crate very easily. She was nice and calm and easy. The crate arrival our crate arriving there put the team more at ease because they immediately saw, again, what detail we put into
what a real elephant transport crate should look like.
Yeah, they said they didn't even realize how substantially different the crate would be until it arrived, and they started looking at all the scenarios. And even something like that goes to build trust for what our organization does. Our team we're highly detailed in these considerations, and the crate has a lot of really unique features to it. Structurally, it is very, very well built. And again, those little things make a difference right away when you are introducing yourself to a new organization or to a new company.
Especially because so many of these places think that anything that has to do with animal rights are just a bunch of like hippie-ish, we don't actually know what we're doing. We just want to save all the animals of the world. And the merit that the organization has is just not something that's generally seen or accepted in these types of scenarios. So when you can go into a facility and immediately start showing your knowledge with like things like even he mentioned the last time with her poop doesn't smell right, or seeing the crate and seeing that, if we need to, we can drop this door and safely do an injection from the back and all of those things. People start to realize that we're not just a bunch of whatevers that don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of sanctuaries get a bad rap because of that, because there's this perception of activists wanting to save the world, and many times we are, but we're doing so in a way that is taking consideration for what truly those animals need, all aspects of it. This isn't just some harebrained idea of let's save elephants. This is built on many, many years of many decades of experience.
Yeah. And we have talked about your crate, and they were especially designed by you. And also, I can't remember in which podcast, but one podcast where a crate was supposed to be used and it wasn't very stable. Something sort of dropped off. I remember Kat saying, so yes, your crates are purpose-built. They have lots and lots of features. So that's great that they immediately saw the difference between, just a container, an overseas container.
And it's beautiful.
It is very pretty.
We're all very proud of the container, and it worked really, really well. So it was actually too big for her. It made it a little bit difficult on the road because it's made for boys. As I mentioned before, the girls' crates are being modified a little bit. And so we have used the boy crate. It's a little bit longer, a little bit wider. So normally we would access the side doors, and you could see the elephant pretty well. But when you open up the side door, the little front, the lateral door at the front feeding door, we actually couldn't see her unless you stuck your head into the crate.
Because it was big enough that she could go all the way to the back, versus the way the other crates are, that there's not enough space that she could disappear to the back.
Have to send some photos. I can get Bob to put a few photos into the video edition.
Yeah, we can definitely do that because it's a different perspective than we normally have. And so we ended up using the front doors a lot more than we normally would during the transport. But she did right. She did great. Transport was fine. We had a little hiccup on the loading day. She went in the crate. Everything is fine. We had already been talking to the crane crew. They're the ones that put the crate in place. The crane cannot get very close because of structures, trees, and power lines. So the crane was positioned, and as we already know with Baby from the videos before, she sways a lot. And she was swaying a whole lot in the crate. So as soon as the crate came off the ground, it was basically almost touching the buildings on both sides.
Oh my God.
Which were scheduled to be torn down. So the joke was, hey, they can just pay us our demolition fee later if she starts rocking too much. But it was on the edge of what the crane could do. So they actually had to reposition the crane. Unfortunately, with that type of crane system, it takes almost an hour and a half to reposition the crane because they actually have to pack everything up, remove the counterweights, move it all back into place. Relocate it, add the counterweights again, put it back in place, and then also wait for the computer to reconfigure based on the positioning and the weight.
And just for clarification, when he says the crane was at its limit, not weight-wise.
No.
It was just the distance because of the angle and the cantilever and blah, 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 blah. Just so people don't think we are using a crane that can almost not pick up an elephant and the crate.
No, if the crate was 2 meters closer, it would have been no issue at all. And again, not from a weight perspective, just a little bit of balance on the crane and the positioning of the crane. So with that, the other thing is her movement negatively impacted that. So if she had just been still, it would have been no problem. And they actually measured it based on an excess of calculation when they were putting the crate in place. They had the same position. They said weight-wise, no problem. The crate, the computers are all saying no problem. The crane has its capacity. But what was happening is when she would sway, it would just create a little bit of a pendulum, and that would cause a disturbance on the crane. So with that, I had to reposition, took a little bit longer. During this time, the backstory is we're still waiting to make sure that the judicial action is not going to get stopped.
Oh no.
So we were actually waiting until the last second, hoping that, there was actually a judge released something, I think at 10:30 that morning. We were planning to leave at about, hopefully by noon. And right around 10:30, after the judge released whatever he released, saying that everything was good, there was a window for not the amusement park, but the zoo that we talked about, re-entering in the process and trying to put a stop on the relocation. So we were kind of against the clock a little bit, and we just said, you know what, we can't make this go any faster. We just have to breathe through it. She's doing great. She's nice and calm. The care team was awesome. They were really accommodating throughout the whole thing. And then we were getting ready to go. We then had to move the crate out into the parking lot on a small truck, and then lift it up again, put it on the big truck, and then get ready to go. So another movement of the crane. So all of that the logistics of that were not easy.
Inside a lot of these zoos and amusement parks, people have been to zoos. The roads are tiny. There's no way to navigate a big truck that you can put those crates on a lot of times. So you have to just put them on a smaller truck that would not be safe to drive on the roads with turns and angles and so on and so forth. So you have to put them on a tiny truck, get them out of there, and then shift them over to a truck that's much safer to drive on the highways with.
And this is the negative side of having an excessively built elephant crate, is a little bit heavier than the others. It's about 4,000 pounds heavier than the others, but it is built for males. And what you want to build is for the worst case scenario. And if you have somebody that gets agitated or frustrated, you don't want things bending and breaking on the road. So the compromise or a little bit logistical challenge, but she did great. The team did great. We hit the road. And we actually drove through that first night entirely because of when we left. And she did really, really well throughout all of it. She was a little bit tired.
The teams are always set up so that we can drive through the night, whether it happens or not. So there's always 2 truck drivers. There's always 2 van drivers. It's set up in case that actually has to happen. And it's not necessarily because of our own schedule, but if we have an elephant that is less comfortable when you do stop, because that does happen. They're all individuals. The older girls generally like to stop at night so they can rest. But if you get somebody who's agitated and somebody who doesn't seem to calm down when it stops, and you have the reverse, that they seem to get antsy or anxious, you want to have the ability to drive through the night. So it's always set up that we can, but I think it's the first time we have.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually worked really well. I think this was also, I think we talked before, Mateus's first elephant road trip. So he's
your vet for people who don't know.
Yeah, Mateus is our vet. He's our longest standing caregiver as well. He's in there over 6 years now. And he's done worked with a bunch of different elephants now in many different scenarios. But this is his first ride-along road trip. He's joined us virtually, as many people have, but it's definitely a different scenario. So he was worried a few times, and it's like, this is normal. She didn't drink exceedingly well the first day. That's all normal. They don't eat well the first day. That's all normal. It depends on the individual. I think we talked about with Pocha and Gijamina. Gija started strong and ended a little bit weak. Pocha started a little weak and ended strong. Or vice versa. I don't remember which way it was. But that happens. Sometimes they do really well. And I'd rather have them have the first day a little bit off and be stronger on the second and third day than the other one. But she did great. I think starting the second day, halfway through the second day, she started drinking better. Drinking more Gatorade. A little frustrated. She definitely let us know that she didn't want us just hanging out doing things. And with those front doors being all the way open, she was hitting the gate a couple of times at us and a little bit irritated towards us. But again, understandable. New scenario. Haven't been on the road a long time. She doesn't really know us, and we're fine with them expressing that emotion, even if it is negative, because it's at least not bottled up. She's not hiding within. She's letting us know what she's feeling, and we just tried to listen and adapt. And again, overall, she did really well. The second night was late night.
So she not only looks a little bit like Lady, she likes to communicate through hitting the gate a little bit like Lady.
No relation to Lady, just to be clear. We do know her lineage. Sometimes we don't always know, but we do know the lineage of Baby.
So just a question, you said that she had a caregiver that she bonded with very, very well. You said it was quite unique. Did he join you on the road trip? It doesn't sound like he did.
He did not. That was not part of the discussion on this trip. So sometimes we do. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on the individual. You never know how they're going to respond. One of the downsides sometimes when you have people that actually know the elephant, as the elephant shifts, the people don't. So even if she really liked him and she really found comfort with him, sometimes when they start shifting towards that more agitated behavior, the caregivers don't shift with them, and that can create a dangerous situation.
Again, we had that with Pocha and Gijamina.
Yeah, they're just assuming they're going to be status quo, but no, status quo does not. No one's status quo on the road. After 24 hours of traveling, whether it be human or dog or elephant, 24 hours of on the road or 36 or 48 hours on the road, people are irritable too. We give each other grace, but sometimes we don't give them the space to change and evolve.
Yeah, it actually ended up being dangerous with the caregiver that came with them. But anyway.
So you never really know if it's going to be a benefit or not. And seeing with her age, with her stability, it was not really part of that equation, part of that discussion. So, especially with the lawsuit and everything happened very quickly, it's just a little bit different scenario than what we had with, for example, Pocha and Gijamina, or with all the elephants from Argentina, where we had long-term collaboration with both the Buenos Aires Zoo, Buenos Aires Eco Park, and Mendoza Eco Park. That's had been a collaboration several years in the making. So we had several other caregivers came with in those scenarios. I don't think we have anybody else from Brazil.
We've asked, and we've gotten a lot of angry no's, which is kind of weird, especially when people are against it, which you understand because they want their quote unquote, their elephant to stay with them. But then when you give them the opportunity to see what it's like on the road and see the sanctuary, to put them a little bit at ease, and they still turn around and are just kind of pissy about it and are like, no, I don't want to go. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And we do have interest from the veterinarians to come visit her.
That's good.
I just got a message the other day asking when. I said, let's wait till she gets a little more settled, adapted with the other elephants. And then she'll, not only for Baby, but also for that vet to see that adaptation a little bit more as well. She's doing great. I mean, she already looks so much different already. I just got a video today of her walking through the pasture in the middle of the pasture. So she's doing really, really well.
In a new area she hasn't been to yet. So
knocking down palm trees at night. Yeah. So overall, the trip was relatively uneventful. I don't think that we had anything go on that I can recall, but that's all a blur at this point.
No, just the issue with the PRF.
Oh yeah, because of the late notice, short notice, we could not get one solid PRF team, the Federal Police Highway Patrol. We had to switch teams, so sometimes we had to stop and wait for teams to arrive a couple of times. We also, on the last morning, we were getting ready to leave early. All was well, and then we got stopped 10 minutes out of town at the PR station because the vice president of Brazil was in town and they had to re-navigate everything. So that was an unexpected notice in the morning. So that shut down some of the roads.
Damn him.
Yeah. Shut down some of the roads, but also tied up some of the PRF that were supposed to be coming with us. So a little bit delayed, but overall things went really well. She arrived at the sanctuary with tremendous ease. Did the crate transfer at the little village nearby. Normally we do a crate transfer in the nearby city, but we came all the way to the village because of the new roads that have been put in place. That went exceedingly well. He arrived into the sanctuary with ease as well. Heavy crate, a little bit different. Crate was swaying a little bit going up and down the road, but that all worked really well. And so all was in order. Pretty uneventful trip overall. She did great. Sometimes, I think we've talked about poop a few times on this podcast. Always looking at fecal condition gives you an idea what's going on. She never had any loose stools or any sort of diarrhea at all.
Especially with stress, when lifting the crates and stuff is usually when the elephants get diarrhea.
Okay.
And during that first, she defecated a couple of times while moving the crate, but there was no diarrhea. Everything was nice and solid. And just little indications that you look for to see what's going on.
Especially an elephant that we know has GI issues, has had constipation issues in the past when their beverage intake goes down. And I say beverage because I am always so surprised at the amount of people that get annoyed that we give elephants Gatorade. You have people on one side that think it's cute, and then you have people on the other side that are like, it has so many chemicals, it's so bad for her, why are you giving her that? It's like, oh, we're just trying to give them a little bit of electrolytes. On the road, it is hard to get what we want sometimes. We actually prefer to use coconut water, but oddly enough, in so many places in Brazil, it's everywhere. And then in other places, it's harder to get. And if she doesn't want coconut water, which some of our elephants don't like, you want to get something into her. It's not like we're giving her soda, but, it's also generally can't find Pedialyte at a gas station. So we're just trying and we water it down so that it's not just straight Gatorade and that it allows us a different way to introduce more water. But it's hysterical looking at social media and seeing the amount of people that get annoyed at us giving elephants Gatorade.
I have a question for everybody that's been on a road trip. Who doesn't partake in snacks and junk food on the road trip?
Oh my God! Unfortunately, it's so hard to eat.
What is your road trip food?
Yeah,
people talk
that's
about.
True. I drink Coke. I never drink Coke, but I don't know why. I'm sort of really sugared up. I drink Coke. Yeah.
I did too, actually. I don't drink Coke except for when I'm on the road and people were shocked that I had Coca-Cola.
And there are a bunch of vegans and they're not able to eat much of anything on the road because there's nothing. So Scott was happy because he found gluten-free. Somebody found him gluten-free Pringles. I mean, nobody's eating well. She's probably eating better than everybody else. But
yes. A little bit of Gatorade, with a scenario like that. And sometimes it's just a little treat. Sometimes it's, even if you take the electrolyte issue to the side, you give her something that she actually finds appealing, that will hydrate her just a little bit. Bonus, great, especially on that first day when she's not drinking really well.
And constipation is a problem, and colic has been a problem in the past for her. So we're being very aware of all of her intakes and outputs. And not that we aren't in general, but if she's not drinking well, she's going to get Gatorade.
Yeah, interesting. I've always wondered why you do, but you've clarified that, of course, now. But I must say, when I first heard of it, I thought, well, that's quite a lot of sugar in it. yeah, there must be a reason for it. I mean, you're the expert, but yeah, it makes sense.
Giant elephant, giant elephant, 4 bottles of Gatorade. We're not talking about excessive sugar content either.
Yeah,
there's an elephant that's
point.
eating like sugar cane directly, which I know is unprocessed, but there's a high sugar content in sugar cane that she eats as that's part of the road. If you're looking at actual sugar content, I don't know. I've never done a comparison with Gatorade with a giant piece of sugar cane, but you get a 2 meter long piece of sugar cane. I'm pretty sure it's going to be coming pretty close to Gatorade. So yes, we need to keep all of those things in perspective.
Yeah.
But no GI issues, and she did super well.
She did really well.
We are all happy, Gatorade or not Gatorade.
Yeah.
So I can't believe we're actually nearly at the end of our slot. We've got about 5 minutes. Roughly 4. So she unloaded very fast, and we already said in our last podcast that she actually unloaded at the time that your auction was sort of coming to an end, your Trunks and Treasures auction. Nobody was online, or very few people. So hopefully soon we'll have the figures of the auction as well. And so maybe in the last minutes you can just, for people who haven't, although unbelievable, been following her story on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube, and watching all the videos. How is she settling in? How have her first weeks at the sanctuary been? How is her health?
I got stuck on the how is her health question, which is impossible to answer, especially in a couple of minutes. She's doing really well. She is... she's one of those elephants that's easy to fall in love with. All of the caregivers that work with her adore her. I mean, she's not emotionally fully open, yet. They are working on, the basics of just touch for touch sakes, which I don't think people realize that, yes, you can touch an elephant. Everybody can touch her. They touch her feet. They do that. But it's very different touching her for purpose versus touching her just to touch her. And her caregivers are new to her. It's not this, every elephant instantly loves the new people in their lives. It's not like that with people. It's not like that with elephants. So getting them comfortable with moving forward and touching her like that, and her getting comfortable with being open with them to being touched, just in an affectionate way. But she's really good. She had a lot of training at the park. We're having to adjust that training, of course. Slightly different technique, asking for different things. But she's great. I mean, she's definitely more grounded in her energy. We mentioned it before she came. She had a bit of an intensity to her, and we weren't sure what that was, where that came from, how that was going to shift at Sanctuary. But she's definitely settled with that.
She's swaying a lot less. I mean, she used to sway a lot with a really intense, legs spread apart, opening up her front legs and a lot of energy into the swaying. That's diminished substantially. They talk about, the caregivers are not seeing a lot of feces in the barn at night, in the morning. So, she's spending most of her time outside now at night, which is great. Much more independent. She's still watchful. She still wants to be where people are. But she's spending more time, close to where the other elephants are, along whether it be the east side of her enclosures, which is near the yard 5 of the female Asian habitat. So they're seem to be watching back and forth, chatting back and forth.
Footprints into the pond. Nobody's seen her in there, but when they clean the yard, there are literally footprints going into the pond. So clearly she's been in there.
She loves throwing herself down on the ground for baths when you give her a hose bath. So it's also a nice little bonding time for the caregivers, and she gets nice and soft and easy. And
she loves fresh dirt. So she now has new piles of fresh dirt in the habitat because she has dirt in the habitat. Clearly, there's dirt everywhere. But she loves the really soft, kind of fine dirt piles that we had in the barn. So now we've put some outside in the habitat, and she was squishing in those and laying on those and dusting herself with those. So she's a big fan.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, we did link up in the other episode in the show notes. I linked up to you, Scott, giving baby a hose bath, and she absolutely loved that, and she was like squishing her head all over. And you said, well, you had to laugh. You sort of said, "You're so beautifully," and then contorted, and she was like turning herself over. It's like, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, that's a normal thing for her.
Yeah.
I think Barb said her bath yesterday. She's like, it was like 10 minutes. She just really, and it's funny because as far as I knew, she was another one that they said she didn't really like baths.
They at certain times, yeah, but not frequently.
And she's all about them at the sanctuary. So,
and she is beautifully contorted. She bent her body in all kinds of weird ways. Like, I don't know where those joints came from, but
she's young and spunky. She's much more flexible than the old girls.
Yeah.
And just briefly before we end, is there a timeline as to when her, I don't know if quarantine is the right word, but you have left her she's in the male Asian habitat for some more testing. Is there a timeline on when you will then be able to release her into the female Asian habitat?
No, we don't have an exact timeline. It just kind of depends on tests, results, the time it takes to get the results, and talking to the judge after everything. So, no definitive timeline, but she'll get there.
She'll get there. Okay, perfect. And another reason for our listeners, if you are enjoying the podcast, to subscribe, follow so you don't miss the podcast. And then, of course, also if you follow GSE on their various social media platforms, or Elephant Sanctuary Brazil, they have, of course, got a Portuguese site as well. And then you will see all the updates, and then you'll be, one of the first to see when this quarantine time is over. And then we are all eagerly awaiting, but of course putting back our expectations that when she is finally released to meet up with the other girls to see how that happens. Okay, you two, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule and sharing all the information and the updates on baby. And until we meet up next time, take care.
Sounds good, Nadia. Take care.
Bye, Nadia.
Bye. That's all that we have time for this week. We hope you enjoy the podcast. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Another great zero-cost way to support the podcast is by leaving a 5-star rating or a glowing review, as this helps other people discover the podcast. Thank you so much for your support. And until we meet up for our next episode, take care.